Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe with episode number 24 of my Italy's Holocaust, looking at the films from 1979, beginning with Fulci's Zombie, and then all along throughout the 80s and the early 90s up till 94, and the man we're going to talk about here in a minute, Michele Soavi's Cemetery Man. We'll sort of bookend things, and eventually I will get to that film somewhere out there. But I was in the mood for some Michele, so I decided for number 24, and I already know what 25 is, but let's just a little laundry here to get out of the way real quick. Number one, if you're a big Jaws fan, I was recently part of Jaws franchise podcast with the Graveyard Shift. Glenn, our Monday reviewer, BodyBags, and his buddy Will up from Quebec. Of course, Glenn is from near Toronto, up in Canada. And that was really awesome, but that link is down below. So the Jaws franchise podcast. Also, I'm starting to look at things a little differently in terms of when things come out. Not too drastically, but I think Wednesday I'm going to maintain, obviously, BodyBags because I'm the Wednesday guy. But my X-Files episodes will stay on Wednesday. And then I think I'm going to move my Italy's Holocaust and Crazy Fives to Sunday, alternating Sundays. Just want to break things up a little bit. And then anytime I do something weird, just a thought video, any other day other than Wednesday or Sunday, just to break things up. And I'm looking at a lot of things. I'm looking at possibly going Instagram as well. I've never had an Instagram account. I'm doing a lot of talking, a lot of thinking. How would I use that? Any suggestions, drop down. And whatnot. And seems like there was one more thing. Maybe that was it. All right, so let's talk. Oh yes, one more thing. Episode 25. I think 25 is the fact that I would have got 25 of these out is a pretty good thing. So I figured it's got to be something special. It's going to be Fulci. It's going to be a movie I've never seen before, but a movie I'm going to do a lot of reading in the next couple weeks, even before I watch it. But it's a long time coming, so Lonnie, it is coming in a few weeks, and that is Lucio Fulci's The New York Ripper. That is going to be number 25. And I got some ideas what lies between 25 and 30 or 26 and 30, but that's neither here or there right now. So New York Ripper, man, coming next. It's up on my shelf, never even opened it. It's still wrapped, the Blue Underground. And speaking of Blue Underground, The Church, Michele Soavi's second feature film. Of course, the first being Stage Fright, which won a ton of awards. I realized that, Shameless may be the last label to put out what I hear is a really awesome looking transfer, and probably some, I wonder if some good extras on there, but even on Blue as well, Scorpion, am I right on that? I mean, it might be Scorpion, but it has a Blue release, but, I'm building my Blue Underground DVD collection, and so, and this is one where, quite frankly, it looks, even the DVD looks pretty good. Maybe not comparable to the other two I've mentioned, but. So this is a Dario Argento presents. Michele is one of my favorite directors. If you were to just say to me, Michele Soavi, my first thing would be Stage Fright. When I rented this, man, back in the day, man, to me, this slasher blew my mind. I do consider this the best slasher, my personal favorite best slasher ever. Yes, I am putting that above some incredible films, but there's just something about this, man. I don't know. And then, of course, I would also say Cemetery Man, right? Could not believe I found this out in the wild, really super cheap. The old Anchor Bay release of this. Anchor Bay, right? Yeah, Anchor Bay release of this. Look at that. Good stuff. So, so if you say Michele, the Stage Right is the first thing I go to. The Church, is one that came later on. And I want to say I watched this maybe the first time I ever watched this, possibly. Or at least my Blu-ray copy here of, I think it was during COVID maybe, when I actually got COVID. And, I was in rough shape then, so I don't really have that many fond memories, and probably most has to do with my condition at the time. But knowing that this was going to come up on my Italy's Holocaust, I have probably seen this 3 or 4 times in the last week and a half. I'm just going to say, this has to be one of the most beautiful looking films. The photography, call it cinematography, the editing, our editor, Ferticelli, who edited Suspira, Opera, Deep Red, Phenomena, aka Creepers, our cinematographer, Tafori, of course, did Stage Fright, and he was second unit on Opera, which, I mean, was not an easy movie to shoot. This movie, and I think the shooting location out in Budapest, where the cathedral, the architecture, I get they were sort of pushed out there because other places said no. I'm glad other places said no, because this is some of the most curious architecture, some of the most beautiful, and I don't know, it's just a combination of how this film was shot, the work of the score integrated in. You got Goblin, you got Emerson, you got Boswell performing. Just the integration of Emerson and Goblin creates, and you hear just a smattering, creates the interior shots of the cathedral, the exterior shots. This thing is just oozing atmosphere. And I don't know if I've used that word. Last time I used that word maybe to describe the movie, a movie, was probably City of the Living Dead, Lucio Fulci, which is my #1 horror film of all time. Between the cinematography, the score, the music, the editing, this has got to be one of the most, look, the close-up on faces. And when I say faces, we're talking, Tomas Arana, who plays our lead librarian, who will basically unearth the demonic. He was Quintus in Gladiator, which is freaking cool. But he's had a huge career, man. The casting in this movie is insane, man. Barbara Cupisti, who we just saw on Stage Right, she's absolutely gorgeous in this movie. And she's just great in this movie. Is the old grumpy bishop, Feodor Chaliapin, I think, Jr. You got Father Gus, Hugh Quarshie, I think is how you say it. And then, oh man, my favorite, Giovanni Lambardo Radice, man, the Reverend, organ player, a smattering of other things. Just beautiful faces for the photographer to the cinematographer to kind of get close-ups on the eyes, and just, man, not so much the eyes as much as the face too. It has a deep, rich, very personal, warm, I can't say enough about how this movie looks. So, and Asia Argento, very young Asia Argento as a latte. And I'm going to get into a little bit of different things here, but, just survey for a second here. As an actor, not everyone who watches this video might not know the complete background of Michele Soavi, but he, really, I'm not going to, it's not exhaustive, but let's just say as an actor in 1980, he's on Alien 2 on Earth, Ippolotti's film, City of the Living Dead, of course. Then he goes to work for D'Amato on Absurd. As a second unit director, he works for D'Amato on Absurd, Tenebrae, A Blade in the Dark, of course, Tenebrae Argento, Baba's A Blade in the Dark. And then, man, 3 films in a row, he will serve as second unit, Phenomena, Demons, Opera. To be on those 3 movies crunched together, just working on those sets is insane. And right after Stage Right, I think it's right after Stage Right, he'll go to, as a result of Stage Right, Gilliam's The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, who, it's funny, Michele describes it as a hell on earth experience. In terms of the constant warfare between Gilliam and the investors, who really just wanted to wipe the movie out. They didn't think it was going to do anything, and they were investing too much, and it just seemed too oddballish weird for them. I mean, how many times do we got to hear this freaking mess? But it was good experience for Michele because it put him on a big studio budgeted film to see how that all rolls, and he describes it as hell on earth. So I think that pretty much says, a lot right there. As I've said before, I use Italian horror by Jim Harper as sort of a reference to pick and choose my movies between 79 and 94. And when I was, his quick write-up on the church, one of the things he said I do not agree with at all. In referring to the church, he says it's arguably more enjoyable and coherent film than both Phenomena and Opera. I cannot disagree anymore. Opera again is at the top of the heap of my top 100 films. The cinematography, the music, and yes, even the heavy metal integration, that is just an amazing. And Creepers, perhaps I've heard it's Dario's most personable film. I don't know. The church in the last week and a half has tremendously grown on me in ways that I didn't think a film could. This film is beautiful. I could put it in right now, watch it. I mean, like when I say put in, I mean I could hit play and start watching it. But he does go to the very end. He does mention that, however, the church remains one of the best Italian horror films of the decade and worthy successor to the works of both Dario Argento and Lucio Fulci. I do agree that Michele is the successor to Italian horror cinema. Unfortunately, there is a tsunami effect building to go from the theatrical, the big screen, to the TV set. And unfortunately for Michele, he came in just a bit too late. But he did have a long career as Second Unit, and in his own words, he loved Second Unit more than anything. In fact, if it were his way, he would have never even been a director. He would have stayed Second Unit and just continued to work with the giants. He was happy with that. He didn't need more than that. Thank God he directed. D'Amato convinced him on Stage Fright, because that movie is, I don't know where I would be today without Stage Fright. That movie is mad. But then even The Church now, and of course Cemetery Man, right? The Sect, which I do not own, by the way. And this is another, before I even get into the plot real quick, and a few thoughts on the film, which I've already kind of shared. In numbers, what was it, 16? Yeah, 16 of Gore Zone. This right here, right? I want to share one little thing with you, which is interesting. I hope you find interesting. You hear a lot on, in terms of, varying movies that initially or in the beginning served as the sequel or going to be sequel for Demons 2. The Church is often mentioned in that group. And so, this was published in 1990, I think. Gingold, who is contributor on this article, probably 4 or 5 page article, which if you search long enough on the internet, Google it, you're bound to find a PDF of it, a copy of it to read without buying the magazine necessarily. But towards the tail end of the end of the article, this is interesting. Now, I consider this as about as closest to the truth as you're probably going to get in terms of what the church was. The church started out as a Demons 3 with another script and Lambardo Bava set to direct, but when producer investors Mario and Vittorio Cecchi Gori questioned Bava's bankability, he was bounced from the project. He went on to several genre TV movies and recently completed, I'm not even going to try, the sequel to his own father's Black Sunday, in which Soavi had a small acting role. Soavi agreed to pick up the reins on condition that he could make any changes he wanted to the Argento Franco Ferrini script. So, I mean, in terms of at least Gore Zone back in '90, this the church was initially to be Demons 3, with Bava directing again, and not sure what that original script would have looked like exactly, but because it blows my mind that Demons 2 bombed. I freaking love that movie, but a lot of times it takes time for movies to really catch on, right, with their audience or whatnot. Also, first release on VHS by Southgate Entertainment, which released quite a bit of Italian stuff. So anyways, real quick, so basically, the opening of the film is, we see the Templar Knights. This is way back in the olden day, when they would protect pilgrimages to the Holy Land. They apparently get word that there is a village up to no good in terms of witchery and demonic activity. And so they go and ultimately in the end find enough that they're looking for, lay waste to the village, and basically create a huge open pit, put the entire village full of people, once they've been killed. In the very sort of long scene. In fact, the one guy who serves as the accuser, I think, the Templar Knight, maybe not the accuser, the main Templar Knight who is in charge, with the first time I saw him on screen, his face, when he takes the Templar Knight helmet off, I'm telling you, man, this dude might be the closest, Black Death, if you've ever seen that new movie. This might be one of the truest. If we could see what a Templar Knight really would have looked like back in the day, this might have been it, man. Because this dude just oozes, I will absolutely destroy you. You have no idea. I mean, it's just amazing. And so flash forward, and we get a little Asia Argento early on too, in terms of and her character there in the sort of preface and what it will be later on. And so fast forward, the setting is a cathedral. Tomas Arana, who plays Evan, our librarian, is assigned to this cathedral to basically catalog all the books. Barbara Cupisti is a painter, restorer. She's currently, I didn't see it in the trivia at all, but I'm almost positive the painting she's working on is from the Dante's Divine Comedy, Inferno. I just remember because I've read that. And so you've got your cast of characters, right, who all sort of manage this cathedral, the old grumpy bishop, and of course Lambardo Radice, Father Gus, who seems to not be well liked or well respected by the others in terms of his education. It's kind of interesting. Anyhow, Arana does too much poking and prodding, finds a tomb buried down as a result of Barbara's role, Lisa, character, finding an old ancient parchment. They find this buried tomb underneath, and slowly but surely start to put things together of what's going on and why this cathedral was built on this ancient site. And so he messes around with it too much, opens it, the demons come out, and sort of like the Demons movie in a way. What's really curious about this film, though, is once this tomb the seal is broken, it triggers a safety device in which the church automatically seals itself, right? And there is a way of basically bringing the entire cathedral down in on itself, basically killing anything and everything inside, which it just makes for a really interesting storyline. I think the revision of whatever script Lambardo was working on for the subsequent Demons 3 really got revised and really written well, I think. And so, you have a set of people who have gotten unfortunately trapped in the church, a photo shoot that was going on initially outside, but they want to go in to take advantage of the architecture. And then, of course, you've got some other people trapped inside. And this is a movie that takes its time. And There is a scene or two outside. You go to Lisa's house with Evan, but most of it takes place within the interior of the cathedral. Also, you follow Asia Argento as plays the daughter of, I think he's like, well, so Christian, I think he's kind of like a head usher or something, his guy, and he is not very kind. What's really bizarre and awkward is that his wife seems to want to take absolutely no notice of his abusive nature towards her, not in a sense physical, but more verbal and perhaps psychological abuse of her. And so she's looking at any chance. She has a way of sneaking out of the cathedral at night and going down on the town. And it just makes for a few awkward scenes where you feel very, for her in her character. And it's funny that much of who will save the day in the end and commit the act of self-sacrifice that will keep the outside world safe really falls to Father Gus, who is the one who is sort of intellectually, at least, not respected by Radice's character or the grumpy old bishop's character. And there's a lot in this movie, man. I could go on and on and on. And really, that is the basic setup and follow through. This movie, you need to just sit and just absorb the score, absorb the cinematography. There's a scene with Father Gus actually walking outside the cathedral, and there's buildings on the other side that catch the reflection. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. This movie is one of those movies, it's just beautiful to look at. The resolution at the end is satisfying enough. What would this have been if this actually would have evolved into a Demons 3 with Lambardo Bava? We'll never know. But I think Michele shows that stage fright was no fluke. The Church is an incredible film. I've never seen The Sect, so I can't comment on that. But I have seen Cemetery Man, and that, I think, is by many is considered his masterpiece. The man, and I would imagine if The Sect is any good as the other three, then the man put out 4 incredible films. And so he really is the bookmark for an era, a golden era of Italian cinema that really does begin with Fulci. In terms of the ushering of the 80s and through, obviously you can go back to Mario Bava and what followed after him, from the mid-late 60s into the 70s. But by 79, it's Fulci Zombie that puts Italy on the map, so to speak. And as a kid, in the mid-late 80s, early 90s, going into a video store and renting video cassettes, thanks in part to, Southgate Entertainment, I was going home with 4 or 5 video cassettes, on a weekend, and some of those were Italian films, from Dario or Michele or Fulci or, whatever, right? Margheriti or, whatever. And so I definitely heavily suggest, man. And I am curious if anyone who watches this has the Shameless or even I think it's the Scorpion Blue. The transfer's got to be out of this world. It's got to look absolutely gorgeous, because this film, even on DVD, looks gorgeous. I can't, if I ever see this come up on 4K, that will be when I will probably upgrade is to a 4K on this, because I got to see what that looks like. And then there's a bit of a very end involving Argento's character at the very, very, very end of the film. That's, in a way, not so philosophically different than how he ends stage fright. It's interesting. So anyways, I know I'm already hitting that 24-minute mark, but I think I've said a lot of worthy things, some good things. And so tell me what you think, man. And if you haven't, please subscribe. If you've never subscribed, hit that like button. It helps. And drop a comment. I would appreciate it. I always do. And I always do my best to respond. And so look for this. Eventually, the next one, number 25, will actually fall on a Sunday. But first, before that, will be a Crazy Fives, which will be nightmare sequences, 5 good ones. And that's going to be fun getting together. So sorry for the length, but there's just a lot to talk about in this one. As always, we end these things off with Go Bills.